Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode. We are, well, that's not the screen we want, but give me 1 second. We got the handsome, the beautiful Joey Calveri. There we go. That's the face I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to see right there.
Yeah.
So everybody, welcome Joey Calveri to the show.
What's up, everybody?
Long
How you
time friend of mine. Um, for those of you that don't know Joey, he is a actor, singer, sexy man all around. He's a artist, entrepreneur, traveling man. So Joey, why don't you give us a little intro for those that are just joining in that don't know you?
Yeah, I originally from Seattle, Washington. Well, from Tacoma, Washington, south of Seattle. Grew up there, and when I was 19, I hopped on a train and took a 4-day train to New York City to study performing arts and became a Broadway performer. Yeah, started doing Broadway tours, toured Europe, toured all over the United States, did a couple Broadway shows, and yeah, that was basically my main profession.
So when did you? What age did you come to New York? Like when did you come?
19.
So you came to New York and then obviously you left. You like so give me a rundown because I've known you for like
Yeah.
we're getting into double digits how long we've been friends, you
Well,
know what I'm saying? And I never actually asked you when you came to New York. What, like, obviously you
yeah,
came to pursue acting, but give
yeah,
me more insight on what happened when you came into New York.
yeah. I was just like a dumb kid from Seattle. I took a 4-day train to New York, and man, it was like going from the West Coast to the East Coast. Especially, it was the 90s. It was 95, I
Hmm.
believe. Pre cell phones, and man, it's like somebody pushed a fast forward button on life. I stepped off the train, and it was like going really fast, and I was like, oh crap! And so I was going to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy.
Hmm.
And so I went to that school for about 2 years, and then immediately after that, I ended up going to Europe for 3 years. As a young lad, I toured with West Side Story in Europe for 2 years. Came back to the United States and for about 4 months, and then they called me back out to Europe to do Greece. Yeah, Greece, and then back there they call it Greece das Musical.
It sounds better like that, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
so so real quick, when you went to Europe, right? Was that you went because of the play, or did you go out there trying to get the gig?
No, no, I got the gig in New York. I mean, we
Oh,
get
okay.
all everything. That's why all actors live in New York City. Well, stage actors live in New York City because this is where we audition. This is where we get the jobs.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
you get an audition in Las Vegas or LA or Chicago, but generally this is where you need to be to get the gigs. So it's so I moved here after I did Europe for about I did was out there for another year for so 3 years total. I was out in Europe, came back, was back for about maybe just over 6 months to a year, or somewhere around 6 months to a year, and that's when I got my first union tour, which was Saturday Night Fever just closed on Broadway, and I did the Saturday Night Fever tour for 2 years, all over the United States, and then came back, and West Side Story has been kind of like my bread and butter because
Hmm.
once you know the choreography, once you know the show, they basically keep hiring you over and over again. So I did a
Hmm.
couple of those regionally, and then I got We Will Rock You, the Queen. Queen had a musical that they put up in Las Vegas. So I moved to Las Vegas for about 2 years, and that's where I got the rock and roll bug.
Nice. So when so just run me through the process a little bit, just cause. Hey, look who it is. Hey, what's up, Vulpus? So one of our loves. Long time no see.
I know. Hey, Vulpus. Hey, Christy. Saw her just recently. We hang out quite a bit.
That's
Good
good.
friend. Yeah.
She's been a good friend of everybody over the years. Thankfully, Joey introduced her. Real quick,
Well,
we'll get into more of this later down in the podcast. But Joey and
yeah.
I we were in a project together, and fortunately, we had the pleasure of meeting a bunch of a great they not only became friends and fans of the band, but they became like family. So we had a lovely team of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but back into the Broadway stuff, and so you went out to do Grease, and then how long did Grease go on for?
1 year.
Wow. So you toured, and that was just throughout Europe.
Yeah. It was it was so I did some of the same cities that I've done before, like Munich and some of those. But then we ended up doing like Istanbul. I played we played Paris. I mean, it was all over the place, So we played a lot of cities. So I basically like I got to know a lot of these cities, right? Because we sit down in these cities for about 4 weeks to 6 weeks, sometimes just 2 weeks, usually about 2 weeks to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of these cities, and then we go back to them. Sometimes we'd be in a city for like 4 months. I was in Basel, Switzerland for 4 months, and then went back for another couple months. It was like, yeah,
And when you were in your early 20s at that point, right?
yeah, yeah.
So just run me through the headspace of being in your early 20s, touring Europe, doing a theatrical play like Grease that was such like, you know,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it was pretty sexual for its, even though it's tame by
it was a
today's
very,
standards.
it was a very like it's so funny because we all know Greece,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
Germans have this way of taking productions and blowing them up or something because they kind of glamorize the American lifestyle a little bit. So it was literally like this huge rock concert. I remember I was playing Kaniki and I was singing Grease Lightning, and there's literally like I think like how many bulbs, just explosion of bulbs behind me with like a car and fog and guys sliding out on their knees through this walls of fog. It
Yeah.
was like epic rock and roll concert for what it was. It
Mm-hmm.
was like I was like, but it's also like when you're that young and you're out there. My whole life has been kind of like a how like I've always been like, how the hell did I get here? Like I've always been like, I remember walking through Milan, Italy, going like, wait, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how did my? It's just I just happened to pick a profession I gotta say that I'm gonna say this right off the bat because I think this is gonna be a theme for everything. It's like I'm a big fan of oh, I can't even think of his name. Joseph. Never mind. Let me move forward because I'm awful with names. But he basically says you got to find your inner calling, and when you find your inner calling, decide what you really want, not just what society says you should do: get married, have the kids, do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not awful. I mean, that brings happiness. But when you find that outside of that, even
Yeah.
if you find that inner calling of what you're meant for, life kind of unfolds for you. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's not always going to be perfect. It's going to always be a challenge, but it'll take you to the things that you've always wanted to see and do. I think it's like and I feel like my life's been very much like that.
No, it's well said. That's well said. No, and I get what you're saying. I saw the little. You're not trying to offend anybody. I don't think anyone would get offended by what you said. So, because I think that a lot of people don't actually find their calling, and that's like so. Like they might find their calling in someone that they met, someone they fell in love with, and starting a family and children.
Yeah,
That in itself, because guess what, you can raise those children up to be what you weren't able to find. They hopefully your kids will find their calling, but if you're able to find that calling, something like you did, and you were able to really like have these experiences as so many. I mean, just think how many thousands of people would kill to be in the shoes that you were in at one, and that's just in the beginning of your career. I mean,
yeah,
this we're talking about early 20s. You just out of college, you got a gig touring Europe, doing
yeah.
Greece, and
All very
then
lucky.
you so from Greece you said you went on to West Side Story, right?
No, it was West Side Story first for 2 years, and I did.
Oh, okay, I got that
Um,
backwards.
yeah, and then when I came back, then they called me back out to do the production of Grease that they were mounting, and it was it's I was a dancer first
Mm-hmm.
because being a guy that could dance, and in the '90s, a guy that could dance. I don't want to offend, but like a guy at the time,
Yeah.
now I mean dancers. I mean I can't even hold a candle to the dancers these days. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's beautiful, but like how much they could do. But I got a lot of work that way just
Mm-hmm.
because I was an athletic dancer, and so I that's what kind of really that's how I was so lucky to get a lot of work and I could sing and I can act, but I was like, but primarily I could dance very athletically,
Yeah.
and I think that's what got me a lot of work. Now there's like, and theater wasn't as popular, I think, back then as it is now. It's like, after the Disney and after Disney
Yeah.
kids and things like that kind of really blew up. Hamilton's, everything
Yeah,
like that.
not to take away from it, I think it went from more of like artistic, like when like it used to be like there's still artistic theater out there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, listen, I'm not a huge theater connoisseur, but I'm saying like I feel like when in the '90s there was a lot more like
Well, pre 90s, it's like
yeah,
it's definitely geared more towards family now and
yeah,
tourism now. I mean,
mhm,
if you walk down Broadway, I remember I walked down Broadway, and this is not a criticism because these are all great shows. They're just not necessarily the type of shows I'd end up doing.
mm,
But like I remember walking through Times Square, seeing like what's out, and I was like, Aladdin, SpongeBob SquarePants, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's
yeah,
like I was like, oh wait, am I doing children's theater? It's like,
yeah,
do I we're to children's theater? But they, or it's either that, or it's like, or a movie, that everybody knows, like Groundhog's Day or something like that. It's all based on for tourists, to come grab that ticket when they come into town, something that they know. They want to buy something that they know, and so it kind of left from being theater being created for theater's sake, and then people come to see theater and becoming a lot more about how can we just get people in the seats, a little bit, and bring in that money, and so but this isn't a criticism, like I said, because these are all great shows. They're
of
great shows,
course,
but it's not like, I mean, it wasn't. It's definitely changed in the aspect. And now every single college has a musical theater degree program and things like that. When I first started off, I was like, there was not a lot, to choose. There's a couple universities that had musical theater programs, and so it was. Now it's like every single university has to have a musical theater program. So it was a lot different back then. It was a lot different.
so back into I just want to get back into the Europe, the tour from Europe. Hey Joe, you having a glass of wine, I hope. So Joe from
Joe,
Brooklyn.
Joe, what's up?
Joe is gonna be on the show hopefully hopefully next week sometime. We're gonna make that happen really
Yeah,
soon.
man.
Um, by the way, we didn't actually plan to have the same outfit on today. It's just the Italian in us. We're both Italian. We're both wearing white. We can call spouse beaters. They used to call them different names.
Yeah, yeah.
But
As I was getting ready to do this, I was like, Frankie's gonna say something because I know he's gonna be wearing one.
I always have almost so even in the winter time I wear a tank top underneath my winter coats. So,
Yeah,
that's just the way we do it.
yeah.
So now you went from West Side Story into Greece, traveling Europe. Tell me like one of the craziest stories when you were, you're like not too much detail, but like tell me something like that was like awe-inspiring. You're in your early 20s, you're touring Europe, and some crazy you just like I know you said before you were like, all right, you were just standing there like, wow, how the hell did I get here? But tell me something that really like that at times you think back at that moment you're like, holy shit, that was crazy.
Well, I mean, we played Hanover for like 4 months,
Hmm.
and Hanover is very simple. It's just a simple overnight train ride to Amsterdam.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I see where this is going.
No, I mean, no, I'm just this is just
No, no.
just an example. But the thing is, truthfully, it's like we used to go on these. They used to put us on hiatuses, and if we didn't use the hotels that they put us in for the hiatuses, we get paid. So they'd pay us. So it was like, well, if I took that money and just kind of traveled on night trains, I could just travel all over Europe for 10 days.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so basically, that's what I did. I mean, I just kind of, I remember we had 10 days off before we played Milan. We played Vienna, and then we had like 10 days off before we played Milan. And so me and another pal of mine that ran West Side Story were like, let's go to Italy. Let's go to Venice. Then let's go to Florence. And let's go to Rome. And so we did it. We just hopped on and we just traveled by train at night. And it saves money from booking like pensiones or like hotels. And yeah. So it's a kind of like it was a gift. You know what I mean? It's just
Hmm.
like, we're giving you all this experience. And but I mean, we would like we'd be in Paris doing show, and this is so okay. I'm gonna. This is really kind of funny. Um, when I was okay, this is a judgment on me. I
No
was
judge.
doing,
This is a judgment-free zone.
Das Musical.
Mhm.
They decided to put together a boy band slash with a girl front singer band.
Mhm.
It was like, mind you, this is 2000 now.
Okay.
Boy bands are hot.
Yeah, I was
They're
just gonna say the new kid, not new kids. I'm sorry, Backstreet and
Backstreet.
NSYNC.
Yeah. And so what they did was they put together a this is so bad. They put together a group called Increase, like increase. I mean, it's a
Oh yeah.
and so there I was like, all right. And the funny thing is, they gave us these contracts. And we're like, we're not signing these contracts. They said, but as long as we can keep, I mean, we know the gig, we know the number, we'll keep going on doing your TV spots and doing because basically it was all promotion for the show, which, but we didn't sign the thing to release the album. The album was still released. I remember going into the world of music and seeing our album out there, and just being like, this is hilarious, because it was. I mean, it wasn't great. So the funny thing is that here we are doing this whole thing, and we'd ended up doing all these press events, and we'd be like doing press events with like Howard Jones, and we'd be doing press events with Phil gosh, sorry, it's too late for me to be doing Phil Phil Collins,
Mhm.
and all these different like major artists, and also like the big like bubblegum Euro electronica music, like the Vangabus,
Mhm.
and Passion Fruit and Moose Tea, and all these like 2000s like kind of bubblegum like DJ type of bands. And we would end up doing all these press events with all that. And I just used to laugh all the time, just like, and we're just like, the only reason we're still doing this is because we got to go out and buy a new wardrobe every time we do it. And we just came in, dropped our receipts off to our company manager, and we got paid.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hell, we'll just do that, and we'll just do these things, but we're not signing no contract because there's no way, because the contract was like, we own you now, and I was like, no,
Oh shit. Okay.
that's not happening. And none of us were like, no, that's not happening. But they still released everything, they still did everything. We're like, we don't care. Yeah.
Nice. So now, West Side Story and then Grease. Grease went on for, you said, 4 years, right?
No, no, 1 year.
Oh,
Two
one
years
year.
story, 1 year with Greece. Then I came back to the United States. Um, and mind you, I was like, this is pre-Euro dollar, so I
Mhm.
had different currency in every single city. As a young kid, I was like, oh, so if I had time off, I traveled. So I came back with not a lot of money, not a lot of money.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I come back from traveling Europe and doing all these great things to working at Starbucks in Astoria.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
like I'm doing that, and I was like, oh, auditioning, and but that's the ups and downs of this business. Like you do a gig and you're like, wow, I'm like living these great experiences, and all of a sudden it ends, and you're like, well, maybe I can go bust tables, or
yeah.
serve coffee, or do something like that, and that's exactly what we do. And that's kind of like the ups and downs of the business.
Mhm.
And so I did that for about just almost under a year when I got the Saturday Night Fever tour, and that was my first union job. It was a principal contract. Um, Never saw that much money before in my life, doing that type of thing. It was great, and the cast was wonderful. They were, you know, we're still in 2001, kids.
Yeah.
It was a fun time. People were partying.
Yeah.
People were partying. It was like, I mean, if you don't remember 2001, or around that area, people were partying a lot then.
Yeah.
And so like we had a great time, and we toured for 2 years, and it's after that came back, did some regional gigs here and there. I think I didn't work for about almost like a year and a half to 2 years almost. And I mean, that's the ups and downs, and you're living off unemployment, looking for grunt jobs, and doing that type of thing, and auditioning, trying to find time to audition, and so it's like that. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, that's when the Queen gig came along. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's when and it was the same. It was so we ended up going. I went to Vegas for 2 years to work for Queen.
Mhm.
It's like, and Brian May and Roger Taylor would pop their heads in the door all the time, and our band was Meatloaf's band, which was like Paul Crook and John Mincelli, and Danny from the Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was that was the experience that kind of started making me, because I always kind of was like the Doors and things. I was kind of like a passive aggressive rock and roll, but that's the one that really
Mhm.
got me going, got me going with the rock and roll. And also I think that was the most influential time in my whole entire artistic career, which I did not expect to have in Vegas. Because the
Gotcha.
only place
Okay.
it's Vegas, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So and we're partying and we're like doing all that type of thing. But we lived in a car apartment complex with the whole cast. It was us and also the defective cast of Havana Nights, all from Cuba. They all defected from Cuba to do
Mhm.
the show, and it was just all us living in this huge, beautiful apartment complex, with a pool, 24-hour pool and hot tub, and people there were writing stuff and painting and doing all this type of stuff, and I was so inspired, and that's where I started painting for the first time,
Mhm.
and that's where I started. That's where I learned how to write my first song.
Mhm.
Even though I don't play instruments, so it's like, but I learned how to compose my
Yeah.
poetry and do that type of thing, and was and worked with amazing people like Ty Taylor from Vintage Trouble.
Mhm.
And it was very influential. That's where I also met Derek Ferguson, who's now one of my co-writers for my show that I'm writing. And also I'll tell you the story later on. Derek and I became really great friends, and it was just an amazing family and very inspiring cast, and wild times on top of it. So it was like, man, it's like getting both. I mean, it's like it was. There were moments there where it truly felt like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that gig came up through your booking agent, or did somebody approach you?
Yeah.
How did that?
The funny thing is the choreographer for that show was also the director and choreographer for Saturday Night Fever. I only
Um.
work for, see. I only been working at this point. I'm only working for European-based directors and choreographers, because like so far, I mean, because I'm here. I am doing, except for West Side Story was American, Alan Johnson and all these different people like that. But it was like I only had all these ties in Europe, and that made it kind of difficult to get just because when you work, you create like the people that are creatives kind of get to know you, and they start passing your name along, and things like that start happening. But when you're working for European people all the time, everybody over here doesn't know, you know.
Gotcha. Hmm.
Yeah, so that's not it's not getting passed around, but I locked out big time because they were doing a lot of shows here at the time, and that's where I ended up doing We Will Rock You, and just and people would be like, who is it, we'd have like some like lead singer from Anthrax would be coming out and hanging out backstage
Oh,
because Paul,
Scotty. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, because Paul Crook, played with Anthrax, and
And
our
Scott,
guitar.
yeah, and Scotty, and I think he was dating Meatloaf's daughter, and they might have gotten engaged and married at this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
I think something
Patty
along that. Yeah.
Russo, who was Meatloaf's later on girl
Hmm.
lady, that,
Hmm.
sang all his stuff with them on his later albums. She was our killer queen, in the show.
Hmm.
So it was just an experience, and also Vegas just opened up its door to us. It was like, hey, free bottle service everywhere you go. It was kind of nice. So you know, it
And
was it was it was lush.
I can only imagine. And how long did the "We Will Rock You" go on for? How long were you on that?
Just under 2 years.
2 years?
Just under 2 years.
Under
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And so I did that. The show ended, and that's the thing. Show ended. I came back to the United States, and I was going through a breakup,
hmm
and you know, uh, and a very long-term relationship. And so, like, it's kind of like, so I kind of was like, I actually I gave up the business for a while
hmm
and worked at the Bryant Park Hotel during Fashion Week, and did all that type of stuff, and you know, just totally like kind of gave up the business, and then kind of realized after a while that I missed the business, and
hmm
so was going to go to an audition. They weren't going to let me out of work, so I just quit. This is typical. The world that I come from, this is typical. I mean, not so much where the kids come. There's a little bit more silver spoon these days. From the younger generation that come to New York to pursue this career. But in that, we were all in our generation. It was like you're fending for yourself a lot, and so most of our parents didn't want us to do this business,
hmm
and so yeah, we ended up doing. Uh, did some auditions, and didn't get them, and then it was the 50th anniversary for West Side Story, and ended up doing that for a while, and that's when my career started, like kind of rolling in, going again, and I did that. Ended up doing a production of Hair in Arizona. I ended up doing the show. I ended up doing the show Trip of Love and creating this role in Trip of Love in Japan for
I
4 months.
wanted to get into because I remember when we used to when we were writing together and we were performing together. I remember you always telling me about Japan. I want to get into the scene in Japan because I remember you telling me how like different it was and how great that because the Japanese culture. I'm big into Japanese culture, and
I find it amazing. I find it absolutely fascinating.
and I remember you telling me all about like the punk rock club that was like the size of a closet, but everyone, every major
Oh
musician
my
who
god!
was on tour would go through there.
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. So this bar is they have this place in Osaka, Japan. That's where I was for about 4 months. They have a part of the town of the city that's called the American Village, which is funny
Oh shit,
because
really?
we have Greek towns and we have
Yeah,
all
Chinatown, and we have Little Korea and all that in the city over
we have
here.
rural America.
They have Little America. That's awesome.
And it's but it's funny. You walk around, there's T-shirts that just have English words on them that don't really have any significance to it, like "Happy Smile Face."
Yeah.
Or I remember I got this one shirt. I got this one shirt. It was so great. You might have seen it. I think I wore it a few times before it got worn out and I couldn't wear it anymore. But it was said the rock and roll junkie in the front,
Yeah.
and in the back it just said shit fuck. That's all it said. And it was like just they just like to throw random English words out there. I found it, and most of the time it was spelled incorrectly, and
I
so
mean
that's
that they just were looking at my notebooks because that sounds like when I get angry. That's how I speak. That's how I spell things incorrectly. Yeah. So I think someone got a hold of my text messages.
yeah, it was just exactly. It's like
Yeah.
bad texting.
Yeah.
And so it was really hilarious. And then I discovered this little bar there. It was like bars there aren't on the ground level like they are in America. They're like up on the third or fifth floor.
Mhm.
And and so like I used to go up to this place. It was called Rock Rock,
Mhm.
and I used to go there and just chill out there because it kind of gave me my it's giving me my rock and roll vibe, and got to know the owner really well, and the hostess very well,
Mhm.
and I didn't have my phone out there. I was like, I'm not paying for overseas phone. Screw it. I'm gonna install my phone and I'll use Skype. On there.
Mhm.
So I'll just use my. I'll go back to the olden days, right? Just
Yeah.
like you tell me where to go, and then I have no communication until I get there.
Mhm.
Like that's all I was doing. So they used to Skype me all the time and be like, Joey, some 41 is here. Uh, come. They like it when there's people here to speak English with them. Will you come and hang out in the back room with us? I said, sure. So I go and hang out with some 41,
Yeah.
and then like Joey, and it was at the time it's basically mostly like pop punk bands. So it
Mhm.
was like for my Valentine.
Mhm.
But I went and like partied with them all night, at the bar, and they just like to have me come and and have so they can speak English to somebody when they're hanging out, and also somebody that's in the performing arts profession, and also which is really funny the bassist from the Used, it's like he loved it there so much he used to go back all the time, and when I was there, he had very similar friends, and so like so there was a lot of really I got to meet a lot of really cool people at Rock Rock, and that's pretty cool. And so yeah, so I was there, got to experience the Japanese culture, got everything like that. They're so refined. Everything is so like they they,
Question:
they take everything the Americans do and perfect it.
Do you think the Rock bar is still around, or do you think they're closed down by now?
I wonder. I think it's still there. I mean, I don't think that their economy turns over as fast as ours does.
I wonder. I wonder.
So
I'm gonna do a quick Google search sometime before the night's over and see if I can pull it up.
Ty Taylor. I think my friend Ty Taylor from Vintage Trouble. I think when he was in Osaka, I think he went to the Rock Rock Bar when he was out there. So yeah, that was kind of in between when I was there and now. But I mean, I have a feeling it might still
They
be.
have a Facebook page.
They do.
They do.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh,
looks like
I
my
didn't.
kind of spot.
Yeah, but it's
That's
just
pretty.
a
Yeah.
small room. It's a small room, and I just meet the most eccentric. That's where you got to meet the eccentric Japanese, which are the only ones that would talk to me.
Mhm.
Because Japanese culture kept it. I'd be there, and they're like, kind of like let's be honest, a lot of like how we are a lot with the Japanese culture when they're here. I mean, let's be honest, but it's it's or like when you see the French here or something like that, it's you just it's I don't know, they're just it's not as embracing. It's not that they're actually very cordial and they're very embracing, but like socially, if you're walking down the street, it's just like they're not going to hang out with you. But I met some great friends out there. Like, I had these guys that took me around to these temples. I went to the Nara temple, and there was like, they have these deer that are like, they're kind of like, they flood in all over. It's this huge temple that's like this huge Buddha and all this type of stuff is there. And these deer flock in from the woods. And people have these little wafers that they feed them. But the deer bow. They
Really?
bow to
Wow.
ask. I found it so fascinating, and they just flood around you, and I'm like, I felt like Ace Ventura, like, come to me, my children. All these deer flooding around me.
Joe, Joey, the deer whisperer.
Yeah, that's right. No, but I just found it a very magical, just fascinating place.
Well,
And
that fits with the show you would perform when you were out there. Um you were doing Trip of Love, which was, I remember you telling me it was like a psychedelic Alice in Wonderland.
well, no, what it was a '60s review, is what it was, and it's a '60s review that was like starts off in a very like mushroom lounge. I come out and I sing, God of the Vita, baby. They do White Rabbit and they pull this
Hmm.
girl out. And they do this whole crazy psychedelic thing, and then it just kind of goes through like a through the '60s type of review. So it's kind of it takes this girl and pulls her through the '60s, and so it was but it was more of a dance review. And so
Hmm.
half that, so the singers like us, like me, I was a singer dancer, primarily, and oh, there's this one number I did where this easel comes up and it's under black light, and this girl that we were like a couple through the whole thing, and she's like practically naked with just pasties and a little tiny thong on, and she's covered in glow paint, and I'm painting her with glow paint on this huge easel and climbing up on this easel and splatting her with paint as we sang the song "I'm Your Venus," and it was like so amazing. But but no one ever, because they couldn't put any of it in, like, because she's practically naked. They couldn't put it in any like promo stuff, so I never,
Hmm.
there's no proof of it anywhere. But it was such an amazing number. But I mean, but the cast, the dancing cast was half the dancing cast was Japanese, so it was like a joined Japanese and American kind of building of the show, because our producer was Mac. He's Japanese,
Hmm.
and so it was Jimmy Walski created it. He's like this, old. He goes back, like he's got his roots in all this dance in New York and in the United States. So it was an amazing piece to be a part of.
And you don't have any pictures on your social media of Trip of Love, right? Only that was only the one when they came over to.
I think there's some stuff on there. I think, yeah. I mean, I most of my stuff is like, I mean, on my actual, there might be like one picture of me in front of a mushroom doing like some dancing with all these guys,
Yeah,
in a green paisley suit. Yeah,
I'm gonna scroll through while
yeah.
see if I could find. I don't. I found a just a picture of you standing in front of a poster, and then you rehearsing. But I think that was when they came over to Manhattan to do a
Yeah, that's yeah.
the West 42nd when they did the what and so and how long were you out in Japan doing Triple Love?
It's 4 months. 4 months we did that.
But
Then I came
that was a
back.
while. That was a great 4 months though, man.
Yeah, and then I ended up going to then I ended up doing a production of Hair in Arizona.
Hmm.
And during that, the choreographer, Patty Wilcox, the choreographer for Motown on Broadway, and also The Night with Janis Joplin, she's an amazing choreographer. She asked me if I wanted to go out and do a cruise ship. And she goes, Joey, now I know you're a little of a wild child, but cruise ships are very tight. She goes, I'd really like you to do it, but can you control yourself? I was like, Patty.
Yeah,
I'm like, I am a free spirit, but I'm also very respectful. You know me. I'm a very
yeah.
respectful towards society and everything. So I ended up going on to a cruise ship and through the Mediterranean for about 7 months, doing some shows on some cruise ships for a while, and that is when I started coming up with the concept that I wanted to write a show. And well, me and my friend Derek were already writing, like writing a bunch of songs. We had this, this two-man fronted band we put together called the Filthy Bandits. That we were writing all this crazy. It was going to be like a electronica punk rock burlesque show type of thing
Mm-hmm.
that we were. And so we started building this, and I started, and then before I went onto the ship, it's so difficult on a ship because you're very audited, especially the performers, because they hate. Yeah, everyone works like 3 jobs on a ship, and then we perform out of 2 weeks. I performed like 8 shows total, so I had like a lot of time. And that's one show a night. That's and we're done. So it was a lot of people really didn't like that.
Yeah.
So they're always trying to get us in trouble and do that type of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do my job. I'm going to stay down in my room, and I did, and I did in my cabin. And what I did was I started writing the show about this band. But the funny thing is here I am writing all this music, and I was doing most of it by GarageBand and stuff like that. But I realized I've never been in a band.
Mm.
I've never been in a band. So I was like, so here I was writing all this type of stuff, and I was trying to put the storyline together, and I got this basic root of a story together, and I was writing a bunch of songs and stuff. And then after I got back from the ship, I went on Craigslist, and I was like, okay, who's looking for a front man? Because I want to write songs, but I don't play instruments, and so I was like, well, if the band's got music, then maybe I can write some songs to that. And and that was basically my main intention was to feed the idea of the show that I'm trying to write.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to these group of guys that are in Bensonhurst and Bay Ridge,
Yeah.
and they sent me some music, and I wrote some lyrics to it, and yeah, and then I started, and I was working at a tea house at the time. I was working at Alice's Teacup, because you got it. And so I was doing that, but then I was like, so I just keep myself artistically stimulated. I started working with this band, and we called ourselves the Machine Elves, with a guitar player named
Yeah.
Frank
I think I heard of that guy before. Yeah.
Navarro. Yeah,
A lot
and
of people don't like him. They say he's a fucking
yeah, I
know-it-all.
heard he's an ass.
Yeah, he's an asshole. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's yeah, that's that, and we started working really hard. I think we wrote. I know we don't want to get too much into that, because we're gonna maybe talk about that later. But it's we were. I mean, I was going. I mean, it's not easy to get from Astoria
I didn't
to
think you were gonna last. I'm being honest.
and I did it twice a week. And coming home like taking 2.5 hour train
That was
rides.
crazy.
Yeah, and but I was dedicated. I was
Yeah, I
really
know.
Yeah, and you guys were awesome, and it was such a different experience for me. I never, and I was actually that's when I was really starting to get to know New Yorkers, like Brooklyn based. I mean, I didn't know Brooklyn at all until I was hanging out with you guys. So that was like for real for me. You know what I mean? And
Serena says, "I miss those guys."
I'm a Serena.
I know. So Serena says, "I miss those guys," and Christy says, "The Machine Elves were born," with a thumbs up and
I
a
gotta say,
kissy face.
Chrissy Volpes, being one of the most amazing like supporters ever, was one of the biggest supporters for Triple. Well, we'll talk about that later. I
Mm-hmm.
say I'm trying to get ahead of myself, and it's too hard. But
Also, I just have to cut you off real quick. I want to thank XX Mortal Knight. Thank you for following thank you for following my page, and thank you for sitting in and listening to this conversation, this intimate conversation between the wonderful Joey Calveri and myself. And thank you to everyone else who's in the chat. I just want to give a shout out to everyone real quick. Thank you for coming and hanging around. We're not done yet. Obviously, we're still going to keep chatting. Just hopefully you'll stick with us for a while. And I just want to thank everyone in the chat. Thank you, thank you. And I hope you're enjoying this conversation. I know I am, Joey. So I appreciate you coming on tonight and doing this. This is great because as long as I've known you, I actually, you know me like more than a lot of people.
sporadic stories. I'm sure that there's never been a timeline put to any of that. So.
Also, the truth is, I'm very in the moment. I don't normally ask you about your past because the thing is, especially in an artistic in an
Guys, that's also what was so amazing. You guys didn't give a crap about any of that, and I love that. I mean, it was like
yeah, and
all we cared about was like the music, I was
yeah,
actually I was more interested in this world that I was experiencing with you guys.
and also me as a personality, I don't I don't know what people are going through, so I don't like to pry. Like obviously on a show like this is different. I'm good at prying, but in a one-on-one setting, I don't like to pry because usually, especially in like fun settings, like whether I'm in a band or we're performing or we're at nightclubs or we're going out or even when I'm streaming and when I'm doing my streams, my live streams, not my podcast but my live streams, I don't like to dig into people's ask them too much because you don't know sometimes things people have these hobbies to get away from. People come to nightclubs to escape their problems. People listen to rock and roll to escape their like or
Yeah, yeah.
like to fuel their their situations. So I a lot of these questions I never actually sat down and said, hey Joey, give me a timeline. What was this like? Was because it was all about what are we doing now, what are we doing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I mean, yeah, we were really just about the band,
Yeah.
all the time. It was like it was great. It was like no one brought their personal lives into it. It was great. I mean, it was like we were all just about like we're creating what it's gonna be. I
Mm.
love that. It was great.
So
So we
I'm gonna save a lot of the band talk because I plan on within the next couple of weeks getting for those of you that are in the chat, I'm gonna get I'm gonna try to get a hold of all the guys from Machine Elves, and we're gonna have like a reunion podcast where we just talk about, and we're gonna give everybody an insight into what it was like when we were in the band and what we were going through, and honestly the touring, like I'm not gonna tell any stories, but when we toured, when we went to California and we played the casinos and we played all these different venues and we played Star Land and we're direct support for some like major bands, and I'm gonna talk about how I thought that I really thought I didn't think I'd be still sitting in Brooklyn right now. I'll just put it that way. But we'll leave that for that episode. I really thought we were onto something and we were gonna be touring the world. I didn't think we would just be touring a few states. But
the funny thing about that is I think that it's a lot of it it got really kind of difficult, especially with like with my career.
yeah.
It's like which was a great example because coming right after that, after we started playing our first couple gigs, that's when I got the Rock of Ages tour,
Hmm.
and that's when I left for tour for 6 months. And like for 6 months out there, well, it was supposed to be a lot longer than that, but I was out there, and we thought the Machine Elves were done.
I didn't. You know why I didn't think it was done?
You kept
But
it, yeah, you kept it,
because
yeah,
I was always in like at that time you and I were in direct contact all the time, and I probably
yeah.
spoke to you. I
I was like,
spoke yeah.
I'm still just hanging out in hotel rooms all night, so like let's just do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I probably spoke to you more at that point, and during those 6 months, I probably spoke to you more than when you were back here full time. Because when you were back here full time, it was always business. But interestingly enough, I want to get into myself for a little bit there, because when you were gone, we kept writing music, but that was when I actually started my first podcast.
that's right. For the geek, what is it?
Geeks
Geeks.
Unleashed. Yeah, that's still. And the thing was, I started Geeks Unleashed back then. I plan on trying to get some of the guys that co-hosted with me on for a podcast in the near future as well. But I started my first podcast back then, and sadly, it was picking up steam. It was getting really popular. At that point in time, and I was one of the. It was my podcast was all about gaming culture, entertainment, comics, movies, anime, all like nerd and geek culture. And at that point in time, there was literally like nobody was doing that. There was
Well,
no podcast.
that was the beginning of the lift of that whole scene
Yeah.
because there was like the whole 10 years after around that time that happened became the pop culture forefront was all geek culture.
Yeah, and the crazy part was that was like about 12 years ago, and I was the only podcast on the iTunes store that was dedicated to gaming and anime and nerd culture at that time. What sucks is that I fucked up because I had a blog page through GoDaddy, right? And I had all my stuff on there, and I don't know, like I didn't know tech back then like this, it was all new to me. What happened was when right around the time like the 6 month mark when you were coming back and I knew I was going to be getting into Machine Elves, like we were going to be picking back up and we were going to be going 100% into the music, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to be able to focus as much on both things between full-time work and I was taking care of a sick parent at the time as well. um so I was like, I'm going to take I had full control over that, and I did all of the editing, I did all the internet, I did all the business, I literally did 100% of all that. So I put the responsibilities on some of my co-hosts, but They weren't putting out content to the degree that I was putting out content. And then what happened was I decided to actually go in and I was like, you know what? I'm going to update the page and go from a blog page to an actual website. I'm going to upgrade this. I'm going to make this look professional. So I called GoDaddy on the phone. I was like, "Hey GoDaddy, I want to upgrade from a blog page to an actual website because this is it's picking up steam. At this point, I'm getting over 700 listeners a week on each episode I put up, and like I said, and it was just growing and growing. I was getting press pass to go to Comic Cons. I went to all gaming conventions. One of my co-hosts went to a porn convention. He came back with all free sex toys. One of my co-hosts went to a horror convention and came back with all these like pins and stuff. So it was like it was getting out. Like we did everything. We were going to like food conventions. We would anything that you could consider entertainment. We were doing. So I call GoDaddy. I say I want to upgrade from the blog page to an actual web hosting. You know, I want to get it professional. No problem. We're gonna do that for you. It's gonna cost you an extra X amount of dollars a month. I was like, yeah, that's not a problem. I'm gonna do it. I didn't back anything up. I didn't know. They literally hit a switch when you update your page.
Yeah.
Everything got wiped, including the RSS feed, which is what iTunes uses to get people to find your podcast.
Oh man.
I lost every episode, and now I lost my direct connection and all of my followers on iTunes. I literally pressed a button to cost me more money and deleted my entire history of my podcast. And I was like, so I said to them, I was like, where'd all my stuff go? They were like, oh, it's gone. And I was like, still on the phone with them. I was like, put it back. They're like, we can't put it back. Once we reverse, they're like, didn't you back it up? I was like, no, I didn't back it up. I didn't know I had to back it up. I didn't think it would go live that quick. So that was a bad move on Frank's part. Live and learn. Now I try to make lesson to everyone. If you have something important, back it up. Keep multiple copies on hard drives, as micro SD cards, phones, Google Drive, Dropbox. You just keep multiple copies because I lost everything, and there's no proof to it. It's just I'm just some guy screaming into the internet right now, screaming into a microphone about my history, and that I was like the grandfather of this bullshit, and it's fake. Like no one's gonna believe me. I don't have the fucking proof. All I have is some pictures on a hard drive somewhere of me at the first Comic Con, like fucking, like as press. They had what was cool back then was they had Thursdays. Now it's 4 day pass, but back then Thursdays was only for press. So there was no public involved. So we would go and it would be open bar. You got to drink, you got free swag. I would come home with enough t-shirts. I still have t-shirts from that back then. And then they had like kegs set up all over the floor. You just go up and get beer, and I'm going and I'm getting like interviewing with all these people. It was a wonderful time. It was a great time. And yeah, so those were good times. So that was just a little bit about. I had to get a little bit about me because I'm a little bit of a narcissist. I had to talk about myself.
Going back to the theme of what we just said at the beginning, when you feel that calling, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it'll introduce experiences that you never thought that you'd have. That goes right along with that whole theory I was talking about. It's like just you feel something, you feel like you got to create something, and most of us go, yeah, but then that's gonna have to do that, and it's probably not gonna become big.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? Who cares? Like the funny thing is it's going to project your life forward in a direction you never dreamed of, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think that's kind of like I said in the beginning, that's kind of like the whole philosophy of my life, right there, and that's because you felt it. You felt like you should do it.
So I see Serena just wrote she got tickets for Friday and Saturday in 2021. Yay. Nice for Comic Con. Not for Machine Elves. We're not playing. We're not playing. If we played in 2021, that would be quite a spectacle. I think I would need the rest of 2021 to rehearse to be at a place where I could perform live with these guys again. It's been quite yeah. I would have to relearn my own songs. I haven't played them in so long.
Yeah.
But so let's get back a little bit into actually, you know what? Before we talk about rock, you want to talk more about Broadway, or do you want to get into some of your? Because I know now you're painting, or
Sum it up. I did the tour for about what Rock of Ages tour. Then I finally got my first Broadway gig, and they pulled me from the tour, and I got that from Derek.
mm-hmm.
Derek was in a show. Derek, the producer, was like, "We're gonna." Yeah, I think you saw the show, Frankie, the Wonderland.
Yeah, I saw
And
Wonderland.
it didn't last very long, and I don't think it was a flop. I mean, because I don't, because it
I
still does
enjoyed it.
well all over the
Yeah.
world. But it was a Derek, the producer. They lost one of the leads, and the producer comes up to the guys that were in like the boy band thing in
Yeah. Hmm.
that show, and they were like, "Hey, we don't want to hire outside. We want you guys to, recommend somebody." And Derek walked at the producer. He goes, "If you get anybody besides Joey Calveri, you're getting second best." And so
Nice.
I got a phone call, and there's always a joke. When we saw a 212 number on our phone at this time, it always meant, I mean, now it's like, oh, spam caller. But
Hmm.
back then, it used to be like, oh, Broadway's calling because it's a landline. So he always had that joke, Broadway's calling. Well, I said that. I picked it up and I got off the phone and everyone was like, Joey, who was it? I was like, Broadway call. I'm like, no way. So I ended up coming back to New York, and that's when we started the Machine Nails back up again. Did that show, didn't last very long, but immediately after that happened, Rock of Ages pulled me over into onto Broadway, and from there I was there for about 2.5 to 3 years. Moved my way up. I was playing Stacey Jacks for about 2 years, the lead in Rock of Ages. We were doing tons of Machine Nails gigs. We released our second album. We did all that fun. A lot of fun stuff was happening. That ended. Everything crashes down again. And then went back to Seattle for a while and came back and Triple Love. And, my career's just been going. I did a Bronx Tale
Hmm.
for, the tour of a Bronx Tale, getting to know Chaz Palminteri pretty well. And, meeting, Robert De Niro a few times, it was, it's been a great, crazy career. It's been good.
You want to hear something funny? I remember when you first said that you were going to do a Bronx Tale, right? And
Yeah.
obviously your acting history was what made you able to do the role. But I joked around with Tommy, and I was like, he had enough time around around New York, Brooklyn Italians to really. I says, I know he got the accent, so,
Get this, get
yeah,
this. Chaz calls me up. I'm playing Carmine, which is the
yeah.
role that he played in the movie. And I'm such an idiot. Chaz calls me up and he's like, "So Joe, here, listen, let me tell you about this character so you understand a little bit because it's his life story, Chaz
Hmm.
Palminteri's life story." So he's talking to me about it, and he's like explaining, this is a real guy. I'm not gonna go too much into detail, or else we're gonna have to kill you.
Yeah.
He goes, just remember this. And Chaz is like, the best advice. He goes, "You're driving a Ferrari, Joey. Don't try anything, man. Just ride the Ferrari." And I was like, yeah, he was absolutely right. The show is
Yeah.
great.
Mm.
Perfect. And the funny thing is that I was like, well, Chaz, I'm so glad you're giving me all this advice because I'm just used to like running around on a set, like running around and humping set pieces. Chaz was like, oh yeah, I don't know. What? He's like, I don't know. I don't even know what that means. He's
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, truly, I got most of my jobs by moving my hips and being a total freak.
Yeah.
And this show was completely different, being
Yeah.
like a mobster. And so it was like so going back to what you were saying, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely very far from what Joey told me to do.
No, that's cool. I wish I had the opportunity to see you on that one.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Was there any? Is there any plans to do anything like digitally, or do you think that pretty soon, since things are starting to slowly open up, you think you're going to be back on stage physically?
I think that I mean, dude, live theater is live theater. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we do. I mean, that's what people do. Yes, there's going to be more now that I think that there will be offsprings of live theater now digitally,
Yeah.
definitely. But live theater is live theater. That's why people go. I mean, we got movies, we got
Yeah. You got a point.
people go to live theater, see live theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like going to see a band. Like even though I'll watch live performances of musicians and like you can appreciate them, but like man, those they kicked ass at that show. But like it's not the same as being there. It really
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah.
Yeah. So I
I
get
mean,
what you're
that's
saying.
so funny, but also vice versa. You go see a lot of bands and they're so great sonically, but they're just like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
Don't. And I'm just like, well, then I'll just go home and
Yeah.
listen to the
Listen. Yep.
album.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just like yeah, there is a different sonic feeling I think you get from live, definitely. But generally, I'm just like, well, if I'm not getting a show, then that's the performer in me, though. That's those Broadway roots in me. I'm just like, put on a show, damn it, put on a show. So
Let me ask you a question. What is one of your favorite live performances from a band? Like, if you had to think of like not the best, because I can't tell you the best, but if you had to think of like one one band that did a live performance, even if you just watched it on like a video, like something that really stuck out to you that you were like,
Like,
man,
here's
that
a
that
good
was really good.
example. Let's I mean, you can listen to Iggy and the Stooges,
Hmm.
but it's really not the same as
Yeah,
seeing Iggy and the Stooges.
yeah.
That's people listen to Iggy and the Stooges because they saw Iggy and the Stooges. It's
Hmm.
like that. It's I mean that's that. That's my spirit animal, Iggy Pop. So he's like
Yeah.
he's an animal indeed, but he's a. But that's a great example. I mean, it's like watching all old live performances of his. And it's just that openness, that bareness. People were there for an experience, and a lot of friends. There's some great frontmans out there, and that's what I wanted to. That's what I was striving for because I wanted it to be a performance. I wanted the audience, the connection with the audience, to feel like that they're with us in the band, and that and that those type of things. And that's hard to get from musician
Hmm.
frontman, because they're with their instruments, and they're going at it and they're doing beautiful work. But there's just something about a frontman, the Mick Jaggers and the David Bowies, and they put on performances, and that's kind of what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
That's why I hunted you guys down.
Yeah, I surprisingly, I mean, obviously, I've seen so many live performances, but I
Yeah.
think one of the ones, if I had to say, one of the best live performances I went to was actually I went to see the Foo Fighters,
Oh yeah.
and let me tell you something. Like, I know everyone always talks about how great Dave Grohl is, but in person, this guy, he played a 3 hour set, Joey. Now, as
Yeah.
a singer, you know how, like, and have you heard Dave belt, like,
Yeah, man. I'm like
I don't know
45
how
minutes. I'm out.
I don't know how he just kept going, like, and
Yeah.
performing, and like, and when I say at 110%, the guy's a fucking beast. And it's funny
Yeah,
because he
man.
started out as a drummer, right?
I
I
know.
mean,
It was in the fun time. So
uh,
it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's definitely great. You want to hear something really funny, and you're gonna shame me. It's rock and roll wise. The band that made me want to go get a band to be in a band
mhm.
was the Scissor Sisters.
I don't even know who they. I'm gonna be. I don't even know who the Scissor Sisters are.
Sisters,
Please,
they're like
please
they're like
shine
electronic
a light. Yeah, shine a light on me,
rock
please.
band. They were kind of born out of the whole like club kid scene, but they were like it was a show, and I was like, that's it. I want to put on a show. I oh, who else? What's his face puts on a great show too. Peter Gabriel puts on a great show. Yeah, there's I mean, I just feel like use the music to. If you're gonna be there live and you're gonna watch them put on the music, show them the music. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And that's the like I said, that's the performer. A lot of musicians will be like, "Fuck that," like they're like, "No, just play the music." And I have a lot of respect for that too. But for me, I'm just like, I'll go home and listen to the album. It's
Yeah,
massive, right?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it's true though. There are. I'm trying to think. I can't like off the top of my head. I'm not thinking, but there are some musicians. Oh, you know who I liked. I thought Seether. Now, for those of you if you know Seether, I love their discography. I think Seether makes great songs. I like all their songs. But I went to see them live, and let me tell you, like no, these guys are awesome live, note for note, performance wise, note for note. I mean, they don't miss a fucking beat, but
yeah.
they also don't move from the spot that they're standing in front of their mic stands. Like the whole show was like, I mean, I think the most like you didn't get any movement or you didn't get entertainment. Like you
Yeah.
didn't get a show. And I do like to see a show. I like to see a spectacle. When I go live, I like to see a
I
spectacle.
think
You know.
if I'm gonna go see them live, though, I'm like, I embrace their fuck ups. You know what I mean? I'm just like, hey, I'm like, because there's just that thing about live. You know what I mean? It's like that whole idea of just feeling the energy of them all together and laughing about it, or like the screw up or something like that. That's something that I want to see live. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? These people that are trying to be so technically correct all the time. I mean, there's a rawness, I think, to rock and to live performances, and I feel like that's what you gotta embrace. I think as far as music, like as far as like concert music goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's personal. I mean, like I said, but that's opinionated. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to think that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There was I remember Lou. I wish Lou was around right now to tell me.
Oh yeah.
He Lou Larocco, who was on my podcast a week ago. We had a 4 hour discussion because you get me and Lou in a room, we don't shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like we could talk, and I mean, we just talked all night about. I can't even tell you what we talked about. It was complete randomness. But there was a time that he made me watch a. We were in Rockaway. Remember when we were performing when we used to rehearse in Rockaway?
Actually, I really miss that place. Yeah.
That place was like we had such good times there. Oh
Oh,
man.
such a great time there. Yeah. And just
Well,
knowing that, we all paid the rent, like,
mm,
it was really too far for me to ever get to.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
because I'd have to go to bed, I'd have to go to Bensonhurst, have you drive me to Far Rockaway.
yeah.
But like, it was, but that was I've just known that we always had that space we could just go.
And it was just we'd be there all day. But we went in Rockaway one time. I think you went home, or it was a Friday. You didn't come, so we went. We were like, we're just gonna write. We're just gonna write a bunch of music, see how it goes. We'd go to the corner store, pick up the tall boy cans, 40 ounces,
Yeah,
40 ounces.
yeah,
We'd
oh,
get
yeah.
lots of
Well,
beer. Lou brought his jug of wine, his giant Colarosi. Remember, he used to buy that jug of wine he used to drink the whole
that's
thing
right.
during a rehearsal. So he
Yeah.
brought it, and then we played a little bit. We wound up not getting as much writing as we thought we were gonna get done. We were drinking and partying, and then he made me watch a video. It was a live performance from the band Live,
Yeah, yeah. He's obsessed with that band. Yeah.
and that performance, like I grew up, I used to love them, but I never saw that live performance, and I don't know if it was in Liverpool. I don't remember where it was this performance. I'll find out for him and I'll post it. We'll talk about it when we're together on the
Yeah,
next
yeah. But
podcast.
just make a note and ask him about that, because that's a
But that performance, and they were so powerful and entertaining from me watching the video of their live performance that I wished I had I wished I could go back in time and go to that performance live, because that's how good that performance was. It was really
yeah,
that
yeah.
good, and that was one of those things. But yeah, so talking about live performance, you were on, you did your Rock of Ages, and then
I
you
went
did
back.
your
I did
Bronx
Triple
Tale.
Love 7 years later. Triple Love went off Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Did that show for about a full year off Broadway, but without the Japanese cast, because we have unions,
Mm-hmm.
and so and we did that there, and then I did the Bronx Tale tour. I did I've been touring with Neil Berg's 50 Years of Rock and Roll. It's like a history of rock and roll concert that I'm actually going to go back and start. I have a gig with them in August that's happening. Um, yeah, and basic, but my main forefront now is like the shows that I'm writing
Mm-hmm.
and my painting. That's what's on like my main for. That's what I'm really for. My own creative work is what I'm really focusing on
Mm-hmm. So let's get into the. So you told me earlier, in like over an hour ago, we were talking about when you started, and you were talking about how you were painting. You said you started painting in Europe, right? When you were out in
Well, no,
Europe,
no, no. Vegas, Vegas. I did
Vegas.
like 12 paint. This is what happened. I did 12 paintings in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and they were meant. What they were was I started copying these paintings by Shag. He does like martini, type of like 1960s martini people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like advertisement, cartoony type of stuff. And I was really kind of thought it was really fascinating. So I started copying his paintings, and then I saw that he'd had like around the world series, and I was like, I want to do my own around the World Series, because I've traveled all over these places. And so what I did was I started painting as kind of like making personal postcards to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I just pick a city, and I would do a painting on it. And I'd always throw a little bit of design mixed with a character. This is very influenced by theater. I mean, if you look at it, it's very set designy with characters and that's kind of influences the whole how I felt when I was there, and the colors, and I try to take the whole thing and abstractly pull it in front of you, and but with a fun childlike, illustration, like illustration art type of feel to it, and so that's all I did. I did 12 paintings, and I didn't paint again for I think I just ended Rock of Ages, and I was Rock of Ages ended, and I remember going to a birthday party, and the director from Rock of I put them up. I didn't want everyone to see them, so I just put them up on Pinterest. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and my director from Rock of Ages, she was on Pinterest, Krista Hangy, And she came and she goes, I've been looking at your paint and following your paintings, and they're fascinating. She goes, have you thought about selling them? And I laughed in her face. Well, there came a time where I was kind of desperate, so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so I'm gonna put these out there and see if it. And they started selling, and
Mm.
so and people started buying them, and the ones that people wanted to buy that I already sold, I did commissions for, doing a different version of that for them specifically.
Mm.
And so I started doing these paintings that, um, and I had a style. I mean, I didn't mean to. I just kind
Mm.
of had a style of my own that kind of popped out, and it was, self-taught. I didn't go to art school or anything like that. And then then from there, then people found out that I was doing that, and the Hourglass Tavern in Restaurant Row, they're actually, they found out, because I'd hang out there quite a bit. They found out that I was painting, and they're like, "Can we commission you to do a painting for the Hourglass Tavern for the main floor?" This is like a New York restaurant, on Restaurant Row, in Midtown. And I was like, "Wow, that's great!" So I did that, and from there, I started getting a lot more attention, and people started, and they promoted me very well, and people started asking for more commissions, and so I started doing more commissions. And but what they would do is, like, either they would pick a city that they love or something like that, or they would pick like a time period or something like that, and I would just kind of come up with how I would do it in my style, and I'd do a sketch and show them, and they would be like, yeah, but can there's something kind of sentimental about me. They'll be like, like when I was in Paris, I used to ride a bike a lot, and with the baguettes, and I was like, oh, absolutely. And so I put kind of that in there.
Oh, well, you
So
like
I started doing
customize little things that only they would recognize.
yeah. And it is because that's the feeling they got. So now I basically go straight towards the feeling of what people want. Like how when you experience this, or why do you want this, or what is that, so I can actually get like what they, so kind of get something for them. And usually they pay for
So
half of it up front,
we're
and
gonna
have
do a
that.
little. We're gonna do a little something here, Joey. I'm gonna
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
up.
yeah.
I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull up your Instagram page. Okay.
All right, yeah,
So just watch. Just everybody. I'm gonna get rid of Joey's beautiful face for just a cup for a little while. So just I'm sorry if it breaks your heart. I'm gonna get rid of his beautiful face for a little while, and I want you to look at the screen, Joey, and you're gonna run us through. I'm gonna click on pieces slowly, and you're gonna just give me a little bit of description about these pieces, maybe, and maybe what was going through when you did them, and later on, like later on, towards the end of the stream, I will post his Instagram page for everyone to follow. If you could please give it a follow if you haven't already. Um, okay, so I am going to pull up.
Also, like, apologies ahead of time. There's a major delay on my end, so if it takes me a little while, I apologize.
Yeah, no, no, that's
Oh, this
should
this seems to be in time. All right,
Yeah, it's like 7 seconds behind. It's just in case. Yeah, there's a 7 second delay. But I'm gonna click on Opium Den because I see that's the first story. So
that's like that's yeah go yeah. This is like the this has been I did this over COVID actually, and it was a this is kind of like my new evolution of painting, and I just kind of want to show people kind of like my whole process. Like, I do a sketch, and then I kind of just take it piece by piece, and I kind of build it from there and add the characters and add the environment. I'm all about the environments. I think when it comes to doing these type of things, like trying to, and I started getting more into like the dollhousey feeling of like looking into something.
mhm.
And so that's kind of like what I was going for with so this is like I feel like this kind of evolved me a lot as a painter. I actually did this for my living room,
Mhm.
and did this painting, so you can kind of see like the evolution of it all and how it builds up, and how I start adding the characters into the environment with their own little storylines and stuff. It's very theater, it's very theater if you
Mhm.
think about it.
Okay, and then
Yeah,
and that was pretty cool. I like how you did that story because it did like it's funny because you speaking over it gave it a little bit more depth. But even without you speaking over it, I could see like what was what you were going with there.
yeah, the whole process of it all. But what I did was I started off by doing. If you scroll down towards the bottom, if uh, because those are like the later ones. Okay, I started doing. Okay, these are the I started doing. I have a series that I'm working on right now, which are based on great fictional novels that I love, and Tom Robbins being one of my favorite favorite writers of all time. I've read every single one of his books. I've done this is my second painting of one of his books I've done, but I kind of have a style that I do to that. So I'm actually doing a whole series of all my favorite novels and books, classic literature and everything. Um, so that's one of my that was from hot Fierce Invalids Home from Hot Climates. I always like to put like a quote from the book on there, and and kind of like a little bit of the story and environment and stuff like that in it. If you like, I mean, people probably don't really know that this is an amazing book. If you don't know this book, you got to read this book. This would make so much more sense to you if you did, but this
I,
guy's like a burnout CIA agent, and he kind of piggybacks, and he goes down to the Amazon where you see like the shaman there with the pyramid-shaped head,
mhm.
and he does ayahuasca, and the shaman says, "Well, now that you've experienced this experience, the universe demands something from you." And he goes, "Well, what is it?" He goes, "You're not allowed to touch the ground ever again, or you'll die." And he's like, "What?" And so there's this other guy that's a scientist that's with him, and he goes, "Well, did you do the ayahuasca?" He goes, "Yeah, I did it." And he goes, "What did he tell you?" He goes, "Well, mine doesn't really matter." He goes, "Well, what'd you do?" He goes, "Well, he said if I touched another man's penis, I'd die." So he pulls out his penis. He goes, "You need to touch this right now because I'm not stepping on the ground until you touch my penis." And so he touches his penis, and the guy dies. And so
Oh
he's
shit.
so he's actually not crippled, but he has to go around in a wheelchair going on these CIA agent missions. In the other corner there, you see he's in love with his 16-year-old stepsister.
Mhm.
and he's got this whole face. It has a lot to do with his desire for purity in it, but yeah, which he actually does come to fruition with on this, which
The
later on,
name of that
yeah,
book is Fierce Invalids Home from Hot Climates. That's
so
it.
good, so good. And then he ends up going to Syria where he meets these nuns and falls in love with the nun, and they have this
Yeah,
really
that's
great
pretty wild.
passionate relationship, and it's just really cool. I mean, he's kind of like he takes religion and politics and fables, mythology, everything, throws it into one big novel, and it's kind of like The Alchemist on crack.
Mhm.
I guess you can kind of.
All
He's
right,
he's an amazing writer. If you don't know him,
I'm gonna go to the next. Is there anyone in particular? I'm just gonna click on some of them. You know
yeah,
which?
just click on some of them. Yeah,
I'm gonna click on which they're all. I mean, honestly, they're all really nice. I'm having a hard time picking here. I want to
go the one below there. I think On the Road right there.
on the road.
This is
Is
another one of my literary. Since we're talking about the literary ones,
gotcha. Okay.
go to the ones where you see like the writing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of see my repetitive my style that I got with these this is On the Road. I'm a big Jack Kerouac fan, a big beat literature fan, and this is Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy in the car, traveling all over America and stuff. So and of course the major quote. So you can kind of see the style of it all. I have one more there. I have another one for Picture of Dorian Gray. I love that book. It's so much about the ego and
Which
yeah.
one is Dorian Gray?
I think it's right next to it. The next no,
Oh, this one. Gotcha.
well no that yeah it's up right there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is my picture during it. As you can see, it's kind of like illustration art, like what you see in like almost like a. I kind of like the idea, and the people may criticize me for it, but I kind of like the idea of almost making it look like a children's book, but with adult themes in it. And it's
Mm.
kind of like I kind of embrace that a little bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of so it looks like a children's like novel like illustration, but it's got like this very sophisticated like shit going on in it. So it's I kind of like that contradictory of it. And down here you see now a lot of my paintings are. Well, click on that yellow one real quick.
This is the one I wanted to look at also. This
Yeah, because
the
a
Ode to
shag.
Shag. Yeah, the
Now
Ode to Shag.
this is not all 100% me. This is actually half me and half the artist Shag. And what I did was like I said, I started off painting the paintings of Shag, and so this was more of an exercise to try to capture a little bit more of his style into my style. And so what I did was I took a lot of images from his paintings because I had to do one for my kitchen because we
Mm-hmm.
have like a 1960s base kitchen. So I
Mm-hmm.
decided so I kind of it's very mixed of me and Shag actually, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of definite images from Shag paintings. So if
Gotcha.
you're
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Shag fan, you'll definitely
Nah, it
recognize
looks
those
great.
images.
That one looks great. I like,
But
you know
so
me, I'm a sucker for bright colors. You know.
yeah, yeah, and it's a lot of fun. This one, the 1960s martini people. But if you look at these, like you go to that one, the Casablanca, right?
Casablanca is it this one?
That was up. You just passed it, I think. Or go to any of these.
Let me
Yeah,
see.
here we go. Berlin. Here's Berlin.
Berlin. Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, it started off by just doing kind of Christmas cards for these places I traveled to. They all started off as like little like kind of like Hallmark cards to myself, and it's kind of what I started off doing, like Berlin, and all the different things like all the little things that what I remember from Berlin and how I felt and like the mood I got from it, and that's how my painting started. Yeah.
It's funny because interesting enough, I was thinking about it before you said it that it does invoke the feeling of like postcards. And you know, like it's funny because postcards are one of those things like you know you travel, they're little cardboard bullshits. But when you see a postcard, sometimes it can invoke like the memories of when you visited a place
Yeah,
or wanting to go to said place.
well, I collect postcards
I
because
actually didn't even know that. I know you for like almost 20 years, and I didn't know you
yeah,
collect postcards.
I know. The funny thing is, I started off. I used to have those disposable cameras in
Mm-hmm.
Europe. And I was taking pictures, and I was like, boy, my pictures suck.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let's do that. So what I decided to do is I was like, well, I'm just going to start buying postcards from every single city I go to. And so I started doing that, collecting because they're better photographers, and I just collect the postcards from places that I loved, and then it started going from there. And I basically have a postcard from everywhere I've ever been in the world, every city in the United States, every
Mm-hmm.
even small little towns I found were very interesting. And I even started collecting advertisement postcards because the free ones that you used to find. I used to find them in like bars and stuff and be like, that's really cool art, and just take it. So I think that might have been the beginning of my painting.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring up one that I see here that you did, and I don't think it's sold, but it's really I really like it. And I think that if I had see I do the green screen behind me, and I like to but if I had a room set up with all my like a lot of streamers have like all the neon lights and stuff behind them.
Yeah, yeah.
This picture would be behind me because I think it would be great in the background of a streamer's. And it's this one that you have the lights, Electric Insanity. I really like this. I
Oh
like the
yeah.
fact that it's painting. You did the painting and you did the LED lights, and it just to me this looks
Do you know how this
really
happened?
cool.
I built the show at Sapphire Strip Club.
Mm-hmm.
I well, what it was, there's a Pussycat Dolls type of girl group that was performing at Sapphire Strip Club, and but yet they're trying to perform, but yet there's naked women giving dances, and so they're like they need to pull it all together. So I was like, all right, sirens, mythology, hold everything together. How do I turn that into nightlife and fun and crazy? So I built the show, and so I was buying all these props and things to use for all these different things. Well, I bought these neon. I needed these big neon strings, but those were totally like a lot smaller than I needed. And so I got a whole box of all these little strings. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with all these?
Yeah.
So then I just kind of came up with the idea and just decided to to do this painting and to weave the neon lights through the painting.
Yeah, so needless to say, that's one of my favorites
Uh-huh.
that I've seen. Just
That's
because
what I
it's like
experimenting with
to
different types.
to me like that would be like I would put that if I had a little rock and roll, a little like arcade bar, I would be right there. That would be in the bar right now.
Yeah,
I
oh,
really
great.
like that. I like that. That's really cool. That I like that you mess with different mediums. You know.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm still very new to that. Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit more into it actually.
I like this here, so we can prove that it's actually you. Hold on. There we go. There's a
Hold on.
picture.
Let's see. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, yeah. That okay. What happened was okay. So after I did the painting for Hourglass Tavern, I went and did a show in Vermont. I did Calveri in Vermont, and actually, this is so funny. I literally just met with this lady today because she was in town, and she was friends with the people that are producing it, and she has this salon slash gallery in the fashion district, and she features a different artist every month or every other month, and she puts together a whole opening, and she features her stuff, and she sells it, and she takes a commission from it, and yeah, that was like my first little art opening. It was like great, and we had sold like it sold 4 paintings from that. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, and a really big piece. I did the sold the big Italy piece there, and it was really great for me to understand that I could do this.
Mm.
I can actually be a painter, and I could do this. And I owe a lot to Mariana, um, and to Michael, from Medoma NYC. They were so wonderful, and they really kind of really encouraged me and really helped me. She picked the kind of paintings that I was doing, and she said, you should aim in a little bit more of this direction, and she was, very, very helpful, very inspiring. And I think she kind of does that for like a lot of artists. I think she just is able to just see what you're trying to do and help you, point you in your direction. And I think that, if anybody, uh, she, I'll repost her stuff on my Instagram, and people can seek her out, because I think that she's somebody that can help out a lot of artists that are trying to get started, not just in painting, but just even performing arts. The woman's really well rounded, very well rounded.
This is a
But
fantastic picture because it shows. I mean, this is one of those
she,
moments too
she
that, like,
curated all of it. Yeah, she put all that together.
yeah, it
She's
looks
wonderful.
good, and
Yeah,
this must be nice. See the little name at the bottom. It looks good,
yeah,
professional.
yeah.
No, it looks good, looks good.
And it's so great. They had like a jazz band playing that night. And it was like, they had like wine flowing. It was just really wonderful.
Yeah, and for those of you, I'm gonna post the link to to Joey's Instagram page in the chat right here. For those of you that don't know, it's Instagram.com/Joey Calveri Art, all one word. There's still some paintings in there that are, I see, do not say sold, so I won't
Yeah,
be mad at someone.
well,
Listen,
because mostly I do commission. I've been doing more commissions, and commissions are great because I can be a little bit more personal with them. And and also I don't, I'm not, I'm very, I talk to you about prices. I talk to you about, how long it's going to take me,
mm-hmm,
and we kind of come up with our own price for those type of things, and even have, like, sometimes they take me a long time to do, so we just pay a little bit of money as we go or something
yeah,
like that. So I just like my art on people's walls,
yeah,
to be honest. Better than walls than in my closet,
yeah,
my storage closet. And so it's, I just like seeing my artwork on people's walls. So so
yeah.
I'm very reasonable like that.
So I won't be mad if someone buys the painting I like from Joey. I'll be a little bit bitter, a little bit salty, but I won't be mad because it's a really cool. That one's really really nice. They're all really nice, but like that, that one strikes me. Like I
Although
like that
I
one.
just want to say something about the paintings I'm doing, because there's the one that you saw, the Opium Den. I started doing paint. I did a painting of like a punk rock one. I've been doing kind of paintings on, like, this is another series I'm doing. I have a literary series I'm working on right now, but I have another series I'm working on right now, which is like Bohemian culture through time. And it's kind of, those are a little bit more of the dollhousey look. I have like the Beatnik, I have like the Beat Cafe one that's got like all the famous beats and the famous bebop jazz musicians in it. That's the blue one that I was standing in front of in that gallery. And I'm going crazy with those ideas. So I have like the punk, and I have like the hippie one, the Haight Ashbury one, and I'm doing a little bit more of the time, kind of a time traveler series. And I'm working on one. I'm working on one right now that's Andy Warhol's Factory, and I'm using a lot of tinfoil,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So it's, I bet that's one of the ones That's one of the series I'm actually really excited about working on right
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Real quick,
now. Uh-huh.
everybody stay tuned real quick. We're gonna take a quick break. Joey, get a drink. I'm gonna run because I have to run a quick ad break real quick, and then we're gonna be right back with you. Okay, guys? So just bear with us. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I had to get a little refill here, you know. Thank you. When I talk a lot, I get a little parched. But we've been going for a while. I just want to thank you, Joey. I really appreciate it. This is great. I could sit here and talk to you all night, but I know you're a busy guy. You have things to do in the morning, thank you for being on my time frame, which is a little bit later than yours.
Don't mind at all.
And I want to thank everyone for joining us and listening to Joey. You know, we had a great time. I hope you had a great time. I will be getting together with Joey hopefully soon within the next couple of weeks. I'm going to get the rest of the members of our band Machine Elves together. And we're going to talk about the good old days of rock and roll. Today you got to hear a bit about Joey's history in acting and him as an artist. Again, I just posted in the chat. Well, I'm going to say it out. It's Instagram.com/Joey Calveri Art. All one word. That's Instagram.com/Joey Calveri Art. Instagram.com/Joey Calveri Art. And you can also follow him on Twitter.
No, not Twitter. I don't do Twitter.
You don't do Twitter. You know what? You can follow me on Twitter.
That's right. Frank.
Yep. Twitter.com/Frank is great. That's Frank IZ great, all one word. And I usually will let everyone know when I'm going live, who's going to be on the podcast. So please, if you can, just go to Twitter, give me a follow. And it's easy for you to see where what I'm doing, what's happening, what's up in the in the day, in the week. I'll usually just chat and just say hello, or you can always stop in. I stream live Monday through Thursday, 10:30 on here at twitch.tv. You can always find me Monday to Thursday. I'm on 10:30, and then the weekends is an alternate. I switch it in and out, sometimes on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If I can stream 7 days, I will, but Monday to Thursday is what I'm scheduled, so you'll always find me on those days at 10:30 p.m. I want to thank Joey again. Do you have anything you want to plug real quick before we end this podcast?
No, just keep if you like the paintings, please reach out. I'd like to do a painting for you. Really, honestly.
Do you want them to message you on Instagram, Facebook?
I'm the friendliest person in the world, so just I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, you can't get a hold of me, type of thing. I don't believe in any of that. Like, just reach right out, yeah, and we'll talk about it and we'll explore ideas.
And if you can't find Joey, reach out to me on Twitter.com/Frank is great, and I will connect you with Joey.
Because he's my boy.
See, that's how we do it. And anyway, Joey, thanks a million. I had a great time. I can't wait to do this again. It was awesome. I love talking with you. I'm glad to see your handsome, sexy face, and I'm glad we matched like brosies.
That's right.
Christy, when's the Machine Elves reunion happening? Well, you know what? When we do the Machine Elves podcast, we'll discuss it further. How about that?
Yeah.
So I will make a live event on Facebook and let you know.
Maybe that will be the reunion.
Oh, I don't have enough time to rehearse. All right, but you know what I could do? Actually, I can't even play the songs because the last time I played the song, I got a copyright strike. I got copyright strike for playing my own goddamn music. So yeah, my own music, the fucking songs I wrote with you and the rest of the guys, and I got a copyright strike. So I have to be careful with what I play on the stream because they don't care that I am one of the members of the band. They don't even look it up. It's all an algorithm that checks for it. Actually, the computers check for a frequency. Yeah. And if your frequency matches the song that's copywritten, you get an instant strike. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick Vulpes just joined in. How you doing, Nick? What's up, man? Yeah, thank you for joining. We just, Nick, we're wrapping it up.
I gotta do a shout out.
Of course.
I'm actually taking music theory classes.
Nice.
Piano music theory classes from Nick Vulpes. Yeah. He's become like my saving grace right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so because to expand my music writing skills, but my songwriting skills. But he's been wonderful. He's been wonderful.
So Nick, let me ask you: do you do lessons for other people as well, or is it just for Joey?
He teaches guitar. Yeah, he teaches a lot of people. Yeah, he's a great teacher too, and he's got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, well, I know that. But other people don't know that. That's why I'm asking. Well, yeah, we can link up one day, Nick, if you're open to do we can have a quick podcast together, and you could promote you could promote your lessons whenever. We'll set that up. Leave a follow on the stream. Right now on Twitch, just leave me a follow there, and you can reach out to me, Nick. You know where I am on Twitter. Twitter.com/Frank is great. Twitter.com/Frank is great. So yeah, just follow me on Twitter. I think you're already following me, and just reach out to me, and we'll. There we go. See, look, there's the man. We got to do the for honor, baby, honor, 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 honor. Got to give that pump. So yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, we'll set up an episode, and we can have a conversation, and invite whoever you want in, and we'll talk about that, where people can find you, where they can take music theory lessons as well. And this is the community. This is what we do. We help each other out. We grow together. This is what family is about.
He's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. And again, I will send the link out once this episode is done, which we're wrapping up right now. I will post it to Facebook tomorrow if anybody wants to rewatch the video. And I'm looking to upload. I'm probably gonna make a separate YouTube channel, because right now the YouTube channel I have is my old one. It's still Geeks Unleashed, and that's really my private page. I'm gonna be making a Let Me Be Frank with You page as well, because that's where I want to put all my podcast content up. And don't forget, you can always tune in 10:30 p.m. where I'll always make the statement and ask, is it okay? Will you let me be frank with you? So Joey, once again, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. Anytime. I'm glad you had a good time. And on that one, we're going to call it. Peace out, everybody. Have a good night.